Hello and welcome to another weekly men's mastermind. You know, this is the space where we have those heart storms. This is a space where we keep it real. We have real conversations, no fluff, and we've been doing this for over like a year and a half, almost 2 years now. And these spaces have been so amazing for, you know, for keeping it real, for healing, for learning, for sharing blessings and tools this week is no difference. This week we're talking about legacy. This week we're talking about what legacy means to us. I also want to create some space for us to share what legacy we want to leave independently and as individuals. And I'm really excited for today's conversation because legacy is something that I think it's really important for men to keep in the front of mind and to make sure that we're clear as to what we want to build so that we have clear coordinates that we're going to put on the GPS of life so that we can go where we want to go. So, with that being said, welcome. I appreciate y'all being on. I know we have more people jumping on as we keep the ball rolling. You have some people that should be jumping on as well. But in the meantime, welcome. And I want to open up the floor. I want to open up the floor for you guys and ask you, what does legacy mean to you? What does legacy mean to you in your life? Ken, his hands already up. Go ahead, my brother.
Hello, everyone. So I think that I want to start off today's conversation and kick it off because I feel like I didn't really contribute to the last conversation. And I was holding off because I think that what I have to say applies more today than it did last week. I personally have not experienced grief to the extent that I know Carlos and Alex have personally. And so it's not something I'm as familiar with. So I can't speak in that regard. But what I can speak to in terms of legacy, I feel like it's getting lost a lot, especially in today's day and age. Our parents and people that we look up to, older generations that we're directly related to, and some not directly related to, but being able to look at those stories of people that have come before us and the things that they've done a lot of times, most times, is really inspiring, especially just because with age, you get a lot of extra experience. Like if somebody has 20 years on you, those 20 years are a gap of time that they could have done a lot of things in that you just haven't been able to manifest yet. And so I look at that as far as legacy and like the stories that my mom tells me of what it was like growing up for her. I look at just moments of courage, moments of tenacity, of just being willing to put yourself out there, to take a leap of faith, and to do things really just on complete risk. And I recently came across something that kind of depicted that in Roman societies, people who were in families of power, it appears that historically, in the main entrance of their homes, in their foyers, basically, they would have these kind of like, I guess it's like a piece of furniture that it would hold a whole bunch of busts. And so we've seen historically all these like figures of people's faces. Well, apparently that was a common thing to hold in a Roman household, especially if you were anybody of authority or you held any kind of position of power. You would have these busts of men that came before you, generations of men before you, and they would, when they would die, they would take this plaster cast of their face, and that would be enshrined into that home for generations so that that story was never lost. So the same way that we keep headstones and we build, burial places for these people, I'm sure they had that as well, but they kept that living representation instead of having a photo that hung at their exit door. You literally had this face that looked at you every day when you walked out and when you walked back in, and it would serve as a reminder, like the things that these men did, the battles that they fought, the problems that they faced. How am I living up to that legacy, that reputation, that name, because I carry that name. It's my job to promote that name, to continue that legacy. And so that was always a constant reminder of, this isn't about me. The way I'm going to show up in the world today, or the way that I showed up today, needs to reflect the life that I'm trying to live in honor of these men. And I think that that's lost big time in today's society where we're so focused on what we're going through. It's very easy to get lost in that microcosm of my life and my problems. And I think that that's a good way of zooming out and looking at things, at least starting to break away from that and look at things from a bigger picture, even if it's just still maintaining it in a relatively small uh, sphere because you're only focusing on your immediate family, but it takes that kind of direct onus away from you of looking at just your life and scoping it out and saying, okay, how am I showing up in the overall grand scheme of things?
Oh, so we're cooking right away. We're cooking right away. I love what you're sharing, brother. I think it makes a lot of sense. We live in a really fast-paced world, right? So there's a lot of stuff happening, and it's easier just to get caught up in us and forget all the people that came before us that allowed us and gave us the opportunity to be here today. Like without those people, without those stones, cemented in stone for generations, even if we don't do that anymore, we're here because of them. And it's so important for us to slow down and honor that and even allow some of that to shape who we are and how we show up in today's day and age. I think it's so important. And I see it all the time where people are so caught up on where they are right now and what I want for me that they forget the people that literally give their lives so that we can be here. So I love that, bro. I definitely feel you on that. And I see Alex's hand is up. Go ahead, my brother.
So we're already going back generations, which is such a great reflection of what legacy is, taking the torch in a good way, honoring your family blueprint, and carrying that torch better. And I'm happy that you talked about grief, Ken, and you brought that back up because I'll tie it into what's showing up for me. I think simply put, legacy is, especially as men, it's our obligation to live and lead our inner vision. And our inner vision is how we want to carry the torch, to go back to what Ken was talking about. And I find that as a man, leading your inner vision is first, right? So that's the self, right? Really being able to honor that and honor your family and really be able to pass that baton. And in that, some of these things like you're talking about, Ken, like grief and all these things that we experience, we carry our ancestors' burdens, especially their unresolved ones. And we also can create reminders that remind us of what they did, their accomplishments. So in this like in this case, like the mask, right? The whole like head, like the whole mask that you're talking about, like that's a reminder of what they've overcome. And I'd say it's part of our obligation too, is to be generational breakers, where we can take some of these old feelings like grief and all these, traumas, um, and really integrate them and be like the generation breakers kind of thing. Um, let's see. The last thing I'll mention too, I think that it is easy to be self-absorbed. And what I like to think is one of my mentors, Dr. Gary Gray, taught me this. He says you have to be selfish to be selfless. And that goes back to the legacy, the inner vision. Like your legacy is you living and leading your inner vision, and you have to be selfish about that. Because if you aren't, then you inevitably give your energy away to things that might not be in alignment to that. And that's the honor of being a man, of being strong and being able to say no, the sacred word no. KNOW and NO, dual meaning. So I think it's really important that we are selfish first, but that's why we work on our health. That's why we get on these calls. That's why we wake up early and do our exercises. This is the time to be selfish. So then when we're on the court serving others, which is inevitably part of a man's inner vision and their legacy, then we can be selfless because we've done that selfish work. That's one of the reasons why I'm getting my ass kicked in jujitsu. Have to make that shameless plug. Okay, I'll turn it back over to you guys.
So many gems, and I do agree. Legacy and even thinking about building your legacy is a selfish act. And I think sometimes we do have to be selfish. I think it's required if we want to be truly selfless. Because if you start with being selfless, you're not honoring your real agenda or what you really want to achieve and the person you want to become, it can be chaotic. It can lead you to not be fully there for when you are serving, when you are being selfless. And when we do that work and commit to, that time of us being selfish and really asking ourselves, what is it that I want? What do I want people to think about when I'm gone? It's a lot easier, in my opinion, to serve and to give back. So I love that. And, that's probably something that you can put on Twitter. Legacy is selfish, bro. Go ahead. Aaron, I see your hands up, my brother. Go ahead.
Absolutely, King. So thanks for uh inviting me into the discussion, and I want to just build on what you guys are really saying here, where simply put, the first thing that comes up for me is legacy is a way to fulfill the desire as a man to live forever, I think. I think that is like the simplest way to put it. So I'm really appreciative, Alex, that you brought up how connected it is to manhood. And then also building off that, I think building off what Ken said, it was the way that like knowledge has been passed down forever, has been through stories. That is how we have educated, I think, people around the fire has been telling stories and passing on knowledge and wisdom and things of that nature. So, ultimately, I think most men want to live forever. It's kind of like the masculine side of things, like a more ego dominant side of things, and being selfish like that. Like easiest example I think of is like Genghis Khan. Like he has a legacy. Some, can argue though if it's good or bad or whatever. But yeah, I think ultimately it's important that we have a selfless legacy that we, um, our children can bear and see that like we've done something really important, that's impacted our community or, our country or ultimately like the world. So, I think that's like the biggest part about being, as a man, is like it really starts with our family and then our community. And that's when we can start thinking bigger and bigger. So it's just kind of how big does a person's impact want to be, and like how their legacy is. And the truth, the truth of the matter is most people's legacy is not going to live on forever. Um, and that's okay. Or maybe their legacy, will, I guess, live in like their mind and their children's mind, but won't necessarily get passed down. It's a tough thing. I don't know a ton about legacy other than that, but I think ultimately it kind of boils down to just to live on past your years. So I'm complete with that.
Bro, that is powerful. And, you know, he's not here right now, so he could catch a little shred. But Zambrano and Francisco, he's typically on these calls. Actually, I spoke to his dad about what you're saying, Aaron, about legacy being all about living forever. His dad talks a lot about being immortal. And something that we spoke about is that his dad, he's in a position now where he could die tomorrow and he's immortal. And he says he's like, I'm already immortal. He's like, you guys got to work on it, but I'm already immortal. Like I've built a museum, I have land, I've built out like most of the town that he lives in, and I believe that for a lot of men, legacy is about living forever, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. And something that I spoke to Zambrano's dad about, which they also call Zambrano, it's that fact that maybe we're not able to do it through biology yet, like keeping our bodies immortal forever. But we can do it through the actions that we take while we're alive during our lifetime. And I think it's important for men to honor that, because ultimately, if you go really deep, that's what we really all want. We want to live forever. We want to, surpass this lifetime, which in my opinion is very short. Whether you're getting 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, we want to continue to live past that time. And, getting to talk to older people that way who have grandkids and have done amazing things, have published multiple books and opened museums and all those things. And it's an energy that it's really powerful to feel, to speak to someone who's immortal already. They could die tonight and they're already immortal. And for a lot of men, it's really scary to not have that. So I love that, bro. And I think that's a good, great way to look at it. So I appreciate you sharing, Kek, for real. Sean, I saw your hand was up first. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's an interesting word, legacy. When we look at this world, guys, everything is word magic. And when I think about the word legacy, what does it sound like? Think about it for 5 seconds. Legacy. The legs I see. What do legs do? They carry us to places. So isn't it fitting that the word legacy, what we leave behind, is how we've walked in this world? The legs I see. Where did your legs take you in this world? They took you to everywhere you wanted to go physically. So I feel like a lot of what we leave behind isn't with words, it's with our actions. And with our actions, we leave a blueprint in the ether, in the energy of this world. Many things that we pick up and learn about are when we're in silence. And when we're in silence, we pick up on the energy of this world. When we move in a certain way, we leave a certain legacy. Many people have left a legacy in this realm that is not written down, it's not spoken about. But when we sit down and shut up, for lack of better terms, we can hear the whispers of all the things that have been left before us. And when we listen to all the things that have been left before us, we pick up on the knowledge. And when we pick up on the knowledge of what has been left before us, we pick up on the wisdom, which is action. And when we pick up on the wisdom, we can move in a good way. So a big part of our legacy, in my opinion, is not about what we've left behind, but what we're leaving for people to carry with them in this world. A lot of what our legacy is going to be, gentlemen, is not what we leave physically behind. It's going to be the energy that we've left as our blueprint, so that people can, when they're meditating and when they're quiet and when they're silent, they can pick up on our energy, because it's always here and it always will be. They can pick up on our energy and they can carry that torch. Many of the things that we leave here is not with words, it's not with language, it's with our energy. And when we leave a certain level of energy here behind us, then we leave a better opportunity for the generations to come.
Let's go. My brother's cooking. My brother's cooking. And Sean, I love what you're saying. I love what you're saying. And I really do think there's two kinds of legacy. I think there's soft legacy and hard legacy or strong legacy, where there's a soft legacy where, like you shared, it's that energy, it's how you showed up in spaces, the things that you did, and legacy also is ultimately action. But I also do think that there's legacy that relates to this physical world and the things that we build, the things that we leave, like Ken was sharing with the faces and the books that people have written. So because I think it's important for us to highlight what's concrete and hard and lives past our physical time here. I believe that soft legacy can be misunderstood. It can be assumptive. It can allow people to kind of assume what is trying to be left behind. But what I love about a lot of the massive leaders in history, Aaron mentioned Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, Martin Luther King, is the things that they built, the things that we can hold with our hands. The books that they wrote, shameless plug on Latin way. I think it's really important to leave that permanent product on this physical plane, outside of everything that that else that we live with, the energy that we carry and we express. I think there's also a lot of power, and I also believe that for men specifically, there's this, and correct me if I'm wrong, of course, there's this desire to live that physical legacy, to leave that strong concrete legacy, whether it is through statues or books or buildings or education. There's so much power in that, and I think for men to feel complete and full in their legacy, at least from the older men that I've spoken to, both of sides need to be acknowledged and honored and nurtured. Like we need to have that strong, soft legacy from the energy that we leave and the impact that we make in people's lives. But there's also that physical side that I think really makes men feel joy and feel complete. So I love that you're bringing that up, and how you described the word legacy. It's truly poetic and beautiful. So I appreciate that share, brother. And I see Ken's hands up. Go ahead, my brother, before I keep cooking, because y'all got me fired up out here. Y'all got me fired up out here. Go ahead, Ken.
So I had two things that I wanted to contribute. The first, I just wanted to add on to what Sean was saying. I feel like that is a very descriptive way of describing legacy. And like what you were saying, it's hard to imbue somebody with years of experience, right? Especially if we're talking about legacy being like the path that you walked. Sometimes it takes years of you walking that path to really reap the rewards of what that path has to offer, especially what it had to offer you, because your journey was very specific to you. So if it took you 9 years, it might take someone else only three, but they may not get out of those three what you got out of your nine. And so I feel like part of that being legacy is being able to leave that next generation with those gems that you uncovered in walking that path. If not to provide them with just like, here you go, I did it, and this is what I got, and now I'm giving it to you, that usually doesn't work. And so, at the very least, what you can leave them is with the seeds in order for them to then go down that same path. That's where I find myself right now is I'm taking in a lot of literature from great men that walked this path that I'm on before me. And I mean, we're talking books that are like 90 to 120, 150 pages. Literally, some of these books are workshops that were only 3 hours long. And so I can't get 60 to 80 years worth of experience from these men that I think are super wise. I can only get 3 hours worth of a workshop in a book, but those seeds are being planted and they're allowing me to then explore further and basically transport me back to those same steps that they were taking in order to take me in the direction that they were intending to go without them saying, here are the coordinates to the GPS, just go here and you'll find everything you need. It's not that it's there. It's in the road that you need to take to get there to get what it is that you're looking for. And then the other thing I wanted to just bring up as kind of, I guess, a talking point, I wanted to just ask the question from the perspective of somebody that's maybe coming to this really from like just scratch, not really understanding much. Because I think it's a common occurrence is like, what do we have to say to somebody that's like, okay, I don't really want to build a legacy. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm just trying to live my life. Like, what do we say to those people who are in such a fight or flight mode, just trying to get through their day to day, that they can't think about, like, I'm just trying to survive. I'm just trying to make it. I can't even think about like greatness or leaving any type of foundation that I set up because like I can't even, I can't even continue the work that was laid down before me, let alone like what Alex is saying, break a generational trauma or flip that script that some
I would
people find
love
themselves
I
stuck
would
at.
love to chime in because I've actually lived that
Hmm.
experience. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Um, so yeah, so I would say there's nothing you can really say to convince anybody. Um, Simply they have to just live it. Everyone's got their own journey, but I'd say ultimately you're bringing up a really good point here, Ken, because you know it's really hard to think about what you're going to contribute when you can't even take care of your own needs. And so um, I wouldn't tell or try to convince somebody, but I would try and help guide them to really finding how they can get out of survival. I would say ultimately bring them into a place where they can go from survival to creation. And many times we're so stressed and so busy, caught up in our own day to day, that we forget that we are here made by our creator to be creators. We're meant to create things, right? We're creative beings. So that's what I would say is just finding. That's why it's so important to find your spark or something that lights you up. And then also a lot of times I'll speak from my experience that when I feel like I'm in survival, it's just because there's so much chaos going on. And there's not something that's my rock. There's not something that's like a set standard. I mean, I've been in my life, I'll share personally, where I found it hard to even brush my teeth some days or take a shower consistently or do any of those things, which is normal human being shit. But it's a personal standard. I'd say that's really the biggest thing I want to just put out there is it, it ultimately has to do with your standard, right? So there's the general standard that somebody has, like brushing your teeth or you know personal hygiene stuff, and then there's a higher degree of a higher standard. So I kind of just wanted to answer that from personal experience. um, I also just kind of want to respond to the conversation Sean and Carlos were having also, which I'm really grateful you brought up, hard and soft legacy, because uh, the thing that I wanted to share here is that I think it's so important to have both. I don't think one or the other is necessary. Like, because you could have a guy, that rise up all the ranks and stuff like that. I mean, you could have a Hitler, right? He built a lot of stuff. Like he has a legacy, right? Um, but on a smaller degree, how did he treat his family? Or how did he treat his community or whatever? And that's, to me, that's more the energy that maybe Sean was talking about without like putting words in his mouth. I would say both are so crucially important, because if we just have the hard legacy stuff, then it's all head and no heart. And how can we say we're successful if we're not fulfilled or spending time with our family and things of those nature? So that's what I want to add.
You cooking. Go ahead, Luke. I see your hands up, my brother.
Um, I think, well, I'm jumping into this. I'm a little late, but in terms of people that are so stuck in kind of survival mode, and it's more about living than it is about. So there's a TED talk that I've never actually given the entire talk, but I have parts of it written out. It's about life is more about loving than it is about living. Um, and it's this whole idea that if you're still living life, it's really just about you. And loving is it's more of an outward expression and it's about other people. Um, and that's just the paradigm that you kind of live through. The other thing I was going to say is, have you guys ever heard of the concept or the idea of procession? Anyone? Okay. Procession is the idea of like in this. I draw from Bucky Fuller a lot. He's kind of been a big influence in my life, Buckminster Fuller. It's the idea that um, in universe time, the children are our ancestors because they're going to outlive us. So it's really everything's for them. That's procession. How we might precede them, but they will precess us. And it's interesting because when you look at like life stages, people really only start thinking about legacy around retirement time. um, because it's about career prior to that and just getting it. So, but yeah, those are kind of my thoughts.
So good. Thanks for sharing. Look, I feel that. I feel that. And I want to touch on some of the stuff that you guys have shared. So first of all, kind of to answer your question, and when it comes to what do we say to someone who instant survival mode, right? Who saying like I can't think about legacy. I would argue that that's when they need to think about legacy. And I say this because my mentor Troy Casey taught me this. He wrote a book that inspired a lot of my last version of my book, and he has different pillars of wellness. I know Aaron, you read it too. And one of the pillars of wellness is legacy, and he starts off the book with legacy. And the reason I think that's so important is because when you're in chaos, when you're in survival, and you're trying to get out of it, and you're just like doing things to get out of it, if you don't know where you're going to, if you don't know what you're living for, how do you know if it's in alignment with your values and goals? How do you know that what you're doing and what you're building is actually moving you closer to your values? It's actually achieving the things you want to achieve. And don't get me wrong, I understand. I've been in survival mode. Hey, I was a teacher. Hey, don't get me wrong. I know how it is. But I believe that in order for us to then get out of that survival mode, we need to do something different. And I think one of the most important things that men can do is to really nail down their legacy. Figure out, what do I want to leave behind? How do I want to be remembered? Like, what do I want people to say when I'm gone? Like, what are the things that I'm leaving for the people that are going to be, the generation after generation after generation? Because that gives you direction to your life. That allows you to then make decisions about your health, about your wealth, about your happiness. And not to be a dick, but I really do think that a lot of people who are in survival mode, they haven't given themselves permission enough to really ask themselves what legacy do they want to leave behind? Because when we are clear on that, it makes it a lot easier for us to make decisions. And nowadays we make a shit ton of decisions every day. And if you don't know what legacy you want to leave, you're going to be making decisions that are not even in alignment with you, and probably going to move you further from where you want to end up at the end. And it's probably going to sometimes even dig you deeper into the hole that you're in of survival. And it's really hard to get out of survival, get to thrive into thriving if you don't know where you want to go, if you don't know what your dream life looks like, if you don't know what you want to leave for your kids. It's really difficult. And I find this song from John C. Maxwell. I think he's done only one song ever in his career, but the song is called "Get Over Yourself," and the song has a hook. It's basically 6 parts, and I think it goes perfectly what we're sharing here, or at least what I'm trying to share. Because you guys might not agree with what I'm saying, and that's okay. But what I'm sharing here, I think, goes along very well with what he's saying. First thing he says is, first you got to find yourself. You got to find out what the fuck your legacy is. You got to find out what matters to you, not who you're trying to be to somebody else. What is your legacy? You got to find yourself so that then you can know yourself, so that then you can be yourself, so then you can improve yourself, so then most importantly, you can get over yourself, so that you can then give yourself and serve. Find yourself so that then you can know yourself, so that then you can be yourself. Then improve yourself, because life is about improvement, so you can get over yourself and ultimately give yourself and serve, which is ultimately, in my opinion, everyone's purpose on this planet. So I share this because I see it all the time where people are very caught up and they're like, I'm trying to get out of the survival mode. And then you ask them, okay, what do you want? I don't know. How are you going to build the life of your dreams if you don't know what you're trying to build? Like how are you going to leave a tree that gives fruit for 3-4 generations ahead of you if you don't even know what seed you're planting? So I know that this might be harsh or whatever, but that's really how I feel. That's what I've learned from people that I really admire. And I find that when we start with legacy, it's easier to build upon that that structure, like you guys were sharing. So I just wanted to share that real quick. But Alex, I see you handing something, my brother. Go ahead. Aaron, you know about that life, Aaron. You know about that life. Come on.
I appreciate what everyone's sharing, and I'm gonna kind of tie it all together, and I'm gonna kind of build off my first point that I started with today is that legacy is all about men leading their own personal inner vision and being selflessly selfish or selfishly selfless about it. Luke, thank you for that reminder the other week. Um, yeah, you reminded me of that, and you reminded me of Dr. Gary Gray saying that, and it really dovetails into what I want to share. Does anybody know of a legacy ever in history that someone didn't outgrow or get over survival mode? Does anybody know any legacy that doesn't have that? You see, everything is for us. And I find that obviously, if you're not feeling well and you're sick, and your body's in that survival mode, it's harder to do certain things. And then there's also um, physiological things that happen to the body that you literally cannot get to a certain level. But you can always get to a certain level. And every great legacy that I've known of, there was a struggle. And it was a struggle that could have killed somebody. It was a struggle that tested somebody to really step up to the plate. That's what the fucking legacy is. Doing that for the next generations and integrating those traumas, those experiences, those whatever they are. Um, and that's why I always say, to build off what you were saying, Carlos, is that in order to even leave a legacy, we have to, by definition, a requirement is to work with everything exactly what we have, exactly how it is as best as we can. And to go to build off of that too, what is love actually? Um, Love is consciousness. What is consciousness? The ability to see the patterns around us and inside of us, correspondence, and understand the meanings that we give them and other people give them. So that's what consciousness is. And I find that when we get into survival mode, if we can remind ourselves of this, um, we can still manage to work through that survival mode, because we've outgrown it and we're at a level of consciousness where we're open to truth. And what truth is what is happening and what has happened. So to go back to picking up your own personal blueprint, what has happened in my family? What is going on? What happened and what is happening? And how can I pick that up as best as I can? And that's part of our inner vision is to really honor that, really, really honor that. And that's, in my opinion, some of the hardest work that we can do because we have to look at all these things and we have to take responsibility for all of it. Um, I find that when we're in that survival mode, what helps me most is to embrace that chaos like a lover and to kind of tie back love to consciousness and consciousness openness to truth. Then I'm able to stand in the rainstorm and it doesn't matter if I get all wet or cold or anything. I'm able to stand in it. I'm able to dance in the rain. Great movie, by the way. Um, so yeah, those are some of the things that show up for me. And the last thing that shows up for me in the whole chaos thing, which is different than survival mode, gang. I want to make that distinction. Um, I live by this saying is the type of government that I want to run is internal monarchy, external anarchy. So internal monarch, there's one king, and that's me, and I only rule over this kingdom, which is my vessel to leave my legacy. Externally, anarchy is it doesn't matter if there's chaos, it doesn't matter if there's anything, because there's no rulers outside of me. So I don't have internal anarchy, all that chaos, right? It's external, but I'm living my legacy, and that's my rock. And that's what gets me through the survival mode. And that's what helps me integrate that. And ultimately, being able to get over myself, despite my condition, because there's something bigger than us. And Luke, to what you were saying, for the next generations and precession. I heard this saying once and I really embodied it. And I first heard it from Brother Sean over here is we want to think of our legacy and our inner vision. We must think about this, the next 7 generations to come. And that's an old Native American saying, thinking about those next 7 generations so we can leave something better and make it better for them.
I'm not following that. Ken, go ahead. That's on you, bro.
I just wanted to add on there. I'm happy I asked the question because with your guys' contributions, a lot of things seem to be clearing up for me. One of the things that I forgot to mention previously is what Carlos mentioned earlier, Zambrano's dad having built a lot of these things. That's, I think, one of the more important end results of having a legacy to work towards is to be able to, at the latter stages of your life, look back and say, I did that, and to embrace that next transition with honor and with fulfillment, knowing that, I did what I was here to do, or maybe more than I figured I could do. But I feel full. I feel complete. Maybe not even complete, because maybe you still feel like there's still things that you could do, but you definitely feel a sense of pride, a sense of accomplishment that your life wasn't quote unquote wasted. And I say that because I've also heard people that honor the idea that simply living your life in a pursuit of, this particular person used the word purpose. So in the seeking out of your purpose, you are living your purpose to just try to get closer to it. Because there's people that aren't even making that attempt, and you're not going to get anywhere close to it if you're not even trying. And so that's kind of what led up to my question of, is it enough to just be on the lookout and trying? But something that really unlocked for me that you guys in your shares is, for somebody that is currently stuck in this fight or flight emergency situation, like panic mode, the fact that you are focusing on what your legacy is, to put conscious awareness on it, to put your attention to it, demands that you step outside of the present moment, outside of what's going on around you, outside of the problems that you have. It requires you to step away from the past that you keep looking at, the past that you keep bringing up, the past that you keep holding you back, reminding you of all the times that things didn't work out, that things didn't go the way that you wanted. Like, it really requires you to step away from all of that you're so sure of, because either you're living it now or you've lived it in the past, and to look towards something that is uncertain, something that you have to, like Alex is saying, consciously build, something that you have to desire. And so one of those things being, and I just got this from something that Alex shared with me recently, it's like, what do you care about? Because too many people have asked me in my life, what do you want? And that's a hard question to answer sometimes, for me included, still to this day. But you can say what you want to say when you talk about what you want, but it's a lot harder to come up with things when you talk about what you care about, because at that point you kind of have to have an honest conversation with yourself. And like, that can be, and Carlos and I have talked about this in the past, that can be quantified, that can be mapped out. Like, you can prove through different things, like people's schedules, their actions, their behaviors, their words, like, what do you actually care about? And then it requires having that honest assessment and saying, okay, this is how I'm living my life. And then redirecting from there, deciding, am I paying attention to the things that matter to me, or am I worried about things that don't matter to me?
I just want to say also that, that honest assessment can be incredibly fucking painful. Typically is one of the most painful things you can do, but it's also one of the most freeing things you can do. So if you haven't done it, if you're watching this and you're like, I don't know, take assessment, really look at your data, look at your schedule, look at your bank accounts. Like, how you vote with your dollars, like you vote with your time. Like, what are you really doing with your life, and is it actually in alignment with the future you want to build? Is it in alignment with where you want to end up? So I just wanted to touch on that because that honest assessment can be really painful. But hey, I'm pretty sure almost everybody in this call has done it. So if we can do it, you can do it too. Um, Aaron, I see your hand is up, my brother. Go ahead.
Awesome. So this is actually ties in just what I was going to say. I'm going to do my very best to keep it concise and also explain. I'm just going to cook. All right. So, like, really, ultimately, I think what I'm going to talk about here, I am like 99.5% sure that this is all, like, this is my legacy of what we're talking about. Right. So, I want to bring it back to state because when we can do these kinds of things by getting really honest with ourselves, it can be really painful. And also, it's really important that we have a strong support system and a support network to do that at the same time. So, my story is that I actually lost my mind not once, but twice, literally two times. I was admitted to a psychiatric hospital for the reason that um, I took this look at my life and it didn't match the blueprint of who I wanted to be and who I wanted to become. Um, and so there was an inner conflict that created this like loss of a sense of self and who am I? What am I really here to do? What's the point? And all these things come up. And this is why it's so critically important that we have, firstly, I think a social circle and network. It's also so important that we understand that our feelings and our thinking are inextricably linked. So the way we think affects the way we feel, and the way we feel, our state, literally affects our thoughts. It affects what we're thinking and what we focus on, right? So we're in a state of survival or anxiousness or all this stuff. Our brain is getting hijacked. Like, I hope that wasn't too loud, but our brain is getting hijacked because our amygdala is like, what the fuck, right? So, like, going back like 200,000 years ago, we we're getting chased by saber-toothed tigers. Now, it wasn't 10,000 years ago, humanity, I don't know, long time ago. We're in survival, right? What changed that was the recognizing the patterns of change in seasons, right? So when we understand and we plant in the spring, we work in the summer, and then we reap in the fall, then we don't have to run and hide and like all these things. So pattern recognition is really helpful for that. So I just want to read to you guys an excerpt from Awaken the Giant Within, one of my favorite books. I've read a couple times over. And this is what actually made me name my company the name that I have it. So in the book, he states the difference between acting badly or acting brilliantly is not based on your ability, but on the state of mind and or body at any given moment. He says, paraphrase, your behavior is the direct result of the state you're in this moment. I'd love for esteemed behavioral analyst to validate what I'm saying here. But I really, really want to stress how crucially important it is to learn state management, how to direct our mind and emotions on a consistent basis instead of allowing the environment to dictate it for us. Does that make sense? Because otherwise, we're just going to be in reaction all the time. We're just reacting to this, even if it's subconscious, right? We're just, oh, this is happening here. That person makes me feel this way. That, like, we got to get into a state where, I don't know if you ever like completed something, you've done something, you look back, you're like, oh, it was me. Or then other times you're just like, oh shit, I can't even think of how to spell my own name or something. It depends on, it's not, it uses a different, you're using different parts of your brain. You're in a different state, right? This is what I really want to really describe to you guys. And I'm not going to tell you this without leaving you a tool. So there's a couple different ways to change your state, which one of them was this talked about, which is by changing your focus, asking different questions, asking a more empowering question, right? What does this mean? What could this mean? Is this a punishment from God, or is this a gift Is this a challenge for me to solve so I can become more and grow more so I can give more? Right. So this is why this is so important to me, is changing your focus, but also by changing your physiology, making rapid movements. Like, this is how we get energy in our body. And I talked about standards before. My life didn't change until like sustainably change until I actually had a personal energy standard for me, that I will not go below this level of energy, because that's when the thoughts start creeping in. That's when the rumination starts happening, or that's when my focus starts becoming disempowered. So this is why this is my legacy, is because I have it lived. And I've been through immense amount of pain, you know, personally, physically, financially, relationship wise. So I feel very I have authority in speaking on this. But yeah, to bring it all back, it's state is so crucially important to get out of survival mode, because then we focus on different things, and our focus goes from being from narrow when we're in survival, like narrow focus, to expanded, and we can be like, oh, okay, this is what I want, and actually believe in possibility and hope, instead of just being like, I don't care, I'm just gonna like self-soothe. So I'm complete.
So my glasses on for this one.
Did I cook or what?
Yeah.
Told you guys. I told you I was gonna cook.
Speaking all facts, all facts. Go ahead, Luke.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
guys.
You're muted.
You're muted.
That makes it a lot harder to talk. Um, so I jumped on this late, so I don't know what I missed, but to me, I mean, one of the pieces that came up is values. I heard several people talking about that. And legacy obviously is a way to embody your values past your life. Did anybody and then Alex, you mentioned personal vision. Did I hear that right?
Inner vision.
Inner vision. Okay. Have we talked about just having a mission vision statement for our life? Yeah. Did that come up today? Or no? No, because um I think everybody should have one, but I feel like it it's very rare that people actually do and have it written out. Um it's something I did just before I became a dad, and it was extremely helpful to me. Um yeah, that's all I got.
First of all, thanks for the reminder. I've done a mission and vision statement for myself, but it's been a minute. So actually, I'm going to be revisiting that this weekend. So I appreciate you for the reminder. So maybe when we get together next week, we can talk about it. But as we close off the call, and I have a lot of notes here, and we can keep cooking on many things. I literally cannot touch on all the things that you guys are sharing. I do want to challenge us right now. I want to challenge the people on this call. And I know that we're at on time right now, so I want to keep this about a minute each. But I want you guys to share your legacy. Like, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to leave behind? What do you want people to say? Like, what legacy do you want to build? And I'll start it off. I want to be the best. I want to be the best. I want to be the best father. I want to be the best husband. I want to be the best at creating centers for special needs individuals. I want to be the best corporate coach. I want to be the best. And the reason I use those words, it's very intentional. It's because in my opinion, there's three types of legacy. There's good legacy, there's a great legacy, and then there's the best legacy. And I've done a lot of inner searching, and I found that I'm not okay with being number two. I want to be number one. And I feel like most of us, if we really listen to what we want, we all want to do number one. And most importantly, as selfish as that might sound, I want to be the best. I also think it's important for me to really look for that, because by me being number one, by me being the best, it puts me in the best position to create the biggest impact that I can during the time that I have on this planet. So I want to be the best in every area of my life. And I know I hear all the time people are going to tell me, oh, you're asking for too much. I don't care what people are going to think. I know that that's what my heart is seeking, and I know that that's what I'm going to continue to work towards. So I'll pass the ball on to you, Alex. Go ahead. No pressure.
My legacy is to be a legend amongst my family, amongst my community, and amongst everyone that I have the opportunity to touch. And I want to walk in such a way that my actions are remembered and it gives people an opportunity to really self-discover and really become their full potential. And I do this by doing my work and taking my blueprint with honor, no matter how hard it is. And I do that work knowing that it's going to make that impact. And I'm really grateful that I get to do this next to a twin brother because I feel like it's very connected with that, and he's always been a great support in that. Um, I want to share the unconditional love that was given to me before I had an opportunity to ever have it and have a choice to say yes or no. And I want to carry both of my lineages, my birth family and my adoptive family. And it's important that I share this with as many people as I can who really are willing to take it in because it's a big ask. Um, Want to live an epic fucking story, guys.
You know it, Hormozy. I mean, Alex. I mean, Aaron. Sorry, I thought we had Alex Hormozy on.
I will definitely not be sacrificing my health to build $100 million business. That's
I,
just not me.
yeah,
That's not my legacy. Um, yeah, so my legacy is to be, simply put, is to be a lighthouse. My legacy is to be a beacon of light for people who are tossed in the stormy seas and they don't see a way up or way out. And that's my legacy, simply put. I think there was something else I wanted to add to that. Yeah, if it comes up later, it'll come up. But yeah, that's ultimately what I choose to do. Oh yeah, and Jet, that's the logo of my LLC. It's to own your brilliance. It's genuinely helping people to understand that there is a deep reservoir of brilliance within them. They're not just like whatever they believe. That's my legacy.
this is why I wanted to ask. I was like, I want to hear it because I know it's gonna get us all fired up. That's beautiful, brother. That's beautiful. Who wants to share next? You can unmute. I don't see any hands, so you can just unmute.
So mine's so I shared a couple things. Aaron, you might like those, both referencing Lighthouse. One's from Stephen Covey. The other is supposedly some talk I went to because it referenced. I just literally Googled, or not Googled. I just put Lighthouse into all my pictures that I've got on my computer, and it popped up. I was actually just looking for the Stephen Covey one, but the other one came up. It was good. Um, be an inspiration to inspire. That's what I want my legacy to be. And it's funny because I shared my vision and mission statement with Gary Gray and Doug Gray, and like it was just select people. And Gary came back. One, he loved it, and two, he's like, he's done a lot of courses where it talks about mission and vision statement, and some of them say it should be a sentence. Some of them say it should be a word. It's like your word is inspire, and the Gray Institute's word is transform. So.
Goodness. Oh my goodness. Let's go. Oh, this is so good. Ken, go ahead, brother. I see your nets on my screen, so I'm gonna call on you, brother. Go ahead.
For me, I think that I'm gonna lean into some things that I've heard people say about me in the past and have kind of stuck with me. At first, I thought like I took a lot of things jokingly, And then I really started to pay attention to it, and I realized like it's not something that people are saying just to say it. Like they must clearly see something. And so I've always been referred to jokingly as a philosopher. And so I think if that's something that people see in me, that's something that I recognize in myself. I want
Preach.
people to remember me as somebody that was just always thinking about things, about life, contemplating the wonders of our existence. Um, because I definitely see that that's not something that most people are paying attention to. And if that's what I'm called to do, to bring back attention to that, to bring awareness to that, I think that that's a beneficial thing for my life and for people around me. I also want people to remember me as somebody that was compassionate, understanding. I want people to remember me and say, I always felt heard when I spoke with him, or whenever I shared, he truly gave me the attention and made me feel like I mattered. Because ultimately, like what Alex is saying, if I take my experience back to the life that I lived, I think a lot of the inner turmoil that I faced had to do with not being seen, not feeling heard, feeling misunderstood. And so that's one thing that I always kept, I guess, at the forefront of my mind is I would never want to have somebody feel that same way, and certainly not from something that I did. And so in at the bare minimum level, I would want to show up as that type of person that like no one was too insignificant. No one was unimportant enough to get passed over or looked over. Everybody like and that's the way I do try to live my life as best as I can is every story matters. Every person's history means something to them and it means something to me by proxy because I'm always interested in people's stories and people's experiences and overall and just in people's lives.
That's beautiful. And in The Strangest Secret, Earl Nightingale talks about how most men don't think, philosophers think. So we definitely need more thinkers in the world, bro. And I'm glad that you're stepping into that and honoring that. 'Cause that's definitely a big compliment. Definitely a big compliment. And then I think I see Jose on here. Jose, we're right for you, brother. I don't know if you can unmute. We'll love to hear from you before we close out the call. Let me see. Okay, cool. So, okay,
Can you
perfect.
guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
No?
Actually, it might be breaking up a little bit. Might be breaking up a little bit. Okay. Well, I don't know if you want to try. Yeah, mic issues. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, cool. So, I mean, hey, we'll be on here next week. We'll say you have homework. You're gonna be first next week. You better have a good mic, Vincent. I'm just kidding. But I appreciate you guys. And you know, this has been a really powerful call. I know we're a little bit past our time, but I really wanted to give you guys the time to express this because I found it so freeing for myself and to share it with my people, to talk about what we want to leave behind, and to talk about our legacy. So I appreciate all of you guys for being on here. It's absolutely a love, and we're gonna be here same time next week. And Phil, I believe the week after we have our Sunday Mastermind, which is a different structure than this, but it's a lot very powerful, and it's also now recorded, so you can speak your mind a little bit more freely. But overall, I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Friday Eve, and we'll be seeing you guys again next week.
Have a great night, fellas.
Good night, everyone.